America's here, finally. All right, so John Winthrop, and let's put this in your notes so you have some context here. All right, so John Winthrop is a religious leader. He's a pastor up in Massachusetts, okay? And he's giving this sermon in 1630, right? That's really, really early. What year was Plymouth founded?
1620.
Yeah, exactly, right? So this guy's given this speech super early in American history, and it's, in fact, it's so early that the concept of America doesn't even exist yet, right? So he's giving this speech, and it's Dreams of a City on a Hill. It's a sermon he's giving on a Sunday to his people. Okay. Now again, Eric, the three of you are going to have to read this on your own. You're going to have a quiz on this that I'll give you next week on this. It's a super important speech. It is probably the most important speech in American history before the Declaration of Independence. Okay? So it's really important, and this thing gets referenced all the time, right? So President Reagan references it in his speeches, President Obama references it in his speeches, President Wilson it comes back over and over and over again. By the time we're done at the end of the year, this city on a hill idea will come back probably 8 or 9 times. Okay? So it's baked into the DNA of the United States, right? This is an intrinsic part of who we are. So so I'm going to walk you through it a little bit, but you're going to have to actually go through and read it on your own. Okay? All right. So he reads, Anika, can you go ahead and read this part for me? The highlighted section.
God Almighty in his most holy and wise providence hath so disposed of the condition of mankind, as in all times some must be rich, some poor, some high, and some eminent in power and dignity, others mean and in subjection.
Okay, what does that mean? Any of you guys, not just Anika. What does that mean? This is like his opening thesis statement.
Maybe like the hierarchy between incomes.
Okay.
I feel like it means that everyone, there has to be some of everything, some rich people, some poor people, some powerful people, some not, and that everyone is just as important.
Okay, so he's basically asking the question, why is there inequality in the world? Why are some of us rich and some of us poor? Some of us beautiful, some of us ugly, some of us smart, some of us dumb, right? Why is there inequality is essentially what he's asking, okay? He then goes through these reasons here. First, second, and third reason. These are the 3 reasons why inequality exists, okay? The first reason, and you can write this down briefly, but the first reason is that the world is complicated because God is complicated, right? So the glory of God is to be complicated. The second reason is that inequality exists because when you are being hurt or you're oppressed, right? When you're going through difficult things, that is your chance to worship God more clearly, right? When your spouse gets cancer, your spouse's cancer and you're dealing with your spouse's cancer is your ability to express your faith to God, because even in the face of adversity, you still have faith. Okay? This is an old Christian idea. Are any of the 3 of you Christian? No? Okay.
Well, I'm not.
Yeah. So this is an old Christian idea. It comes from the book of Job in the Bible. And basically, badness exists to test your faith, essentially. Right? God makes you sick because God wants to see if you'll keep your faith while you're sick. Right? It's easy to worship God while everything's good, while everything's happy and fine. Right? It's hard to worship God when things are bad. Essentially is what it comes down to. Okay? The third reason here, essentially, is that is that the inequality, seeing inequality in the world, allows us to have a, where does he say it? Here we go. Allows us to create a bond of brotherly affection. A bond of brotherly affection. Now, I want you guys to understand in this case, in this speech, brotherly is supposed to be understood as a gender neutral term. Okay? It's not, we're not talking about just men, right? Men and women are supposed to have brotherly affection for each other, right? A modern word you could use is kinship if you wanted, right? But he is not intending this to be sexist, okay? So brotherly affection, what this means is if the four of us are in a community, right, and the three of us recognize and we see that Eric is starving to death, right, that is God telling us that we should give Eric food, right? And that by giving him food, we are honoring God. God wants us to have brotherly affection for each other, and so we should do charity and help each other, right? So we recognize that Eric needs food, so we feed Eric. We recognize that I'm illiterate, and so you guys unify to teach me how to read, right? We recognize that, whatever, you know, Anika's an alcoholic, so we unify together to help her, right? Right? Whatever the issue is, that we all have these issues, and those issues are an opportunity for us to help each other. Does that make sense? Okay. So he then poses this question. What do you guys think this question means? Eric, what do you think that question means?
Yes. What I thought of is like, what should we do when someone in our community has a problem or something?
Okay. Yeah. So what do we do when the entire community is in peril? Right? This isn't just an individual. He's talking about a bigger sense, right? And the community of peril, as he's going to describe here, is the world, right? The human race is in peril. The whole of England, the whole of Europe is in peril because the whole of Europe has neglected their relationship with God, right? Remember the Puritans, right? These Puritans are like super conservative religious people, right? Super, super, super conservative. These guys are like level 10 Christians, right? And so they look out all the other Christians of the world and they say all these other Christians suck because they're not being Christian enough, essentially, right? And so he says all of the people of Europe suck. They're not Christian enough, okay? We're going to get down here. This is the most important paragraph of the entire speech, okay? This is the paragraph that people in American history would be required to memorize. Children would be required to recite this in school for hundreds and hundreds of years, for a long time. All right, Shivani, can you read the paragraph for us, nice and clear?
Yeah, what does it start with? I'm on my laptop because it's too tiny in the...
Okay. Now the only way to avoid this shipwreck.
Okay. Now the only way to avoid this shipwreck and to provide for our posterity is to follow the counsel of Micah, to do justly, to love mercy, to walk humbly with our God. For this end, we must be knit together in this work as one man. We must entertain each other in brotherly affection. We must be willing to abridge ourselves of our superfluities for the supply of others' necessities. We must uphold a familiar commerce together in all meekness, gentleness, patience, and liberality. We must delight in each other, make others' conditions our own, rejoice together, mourn together, labor and suffer together, always have before our eyes our commission and community in the work as members of the same body. So shall we keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. The Lord will be our God and delight to dwell among us as his own people, and will command a blessing upon us in all our ways, so that we shall see more of his wisdom, power, goodness, and truth than formerly we have been acquainted with. We shall find that the God of Israel is among us, when 10 of us shall be able to resist 1,000 of our enemies, when he shall make us a praise and glory that men shall say of succeeding plantations. May the Lord make it like that of New England, for we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us, so that if we shall deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and so cause him to withdraw his present help from us. We shall be made a story and a byword through the world. We shall open the mouths of enemies to speak evil of the ways of God and all professors for God's sake. We shall shame the faces of many of God's worthy servants and cause their prayers to be turned into curses upon us, till we be consumed out of the good land whither we are going.
Okay. What does that paragraph mean?
It's like to fix what has happened, they must be super religious or like faithful to God. And at the end, it's like whoever have like done wrong, I think. I don't know if I'm understanding that right. Whoever's done something wrong, they will turn their prayers into curses.
Okay. Oh, come on now. Come on, dummy. Stupid thing. What is going on here? I don't know why I did that. Hold on. Okay. So the italics part in the paragraph, this is the most important part. Okay. Can you guys see where I highlighted it? It's
Yeah.
the italics. This is by far the most important part. This is what it means to be America. Okay. So I'll read this again for you. I'm sorry, Shivani, you were pretty close. You're pretty close. Your
Okay.
interpretation was pretty good. I'm not, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm just trying to help expand your answer a little. For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us, so that if we shall deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and so cause him to withdraw his present help from us, we shall be made a story and a byword through the world. Okay? The United States is the city on the hill, the city upon the hill. Okay? This is his concept here. Plymouth is the city upon the hill. What does that mean?
Like an example, maybe?
Yes. Yeah. Because the entire world is down here in the muck, right? Being bad Christians or non-Christians, right? Being that this entire world is down here in the muck. They don't even know what's going on. And they all gaze upon the hill, and the city on the hill is the guide for all. Everyone can see that city. Everyone can see that that city is the example that we need. Right? That city exists in a world of inequality. It exists in a world of inequality in order to grow brotherly affection, in order to grow honor for God. Right? We are the city on the hill. This is the birth of a very, very important concept in American history, and this is what you definitely need in your notes here, that this phrase, city on a hill, is the birth of the concept whoops. I didn't mean to make it caps, but here you go. American exceptionalism. Okay, I put it. It's in the chat. I didn't mean to make it caps. American exceptionalism. American exceptionalism is the philosophic idea that the United States is exceptional in the world. That the United States is uniquely blessed in the world and uniquely tasked with being the example for the rest of the world to follow. Okay? Winthrop right here says, Plymouth shall be the city on the hill, right? That we are the city on the hill. All of the eyes are upon us. If we fall, if we deal falsely with our God, then we will be nothing but a byword. We will be a story, right? We are the example for everyone to follow. If we fall on that, if we aren't the example, then the whole world is in peril. Not only is America special, America is special and tasked with the duty of being perfect. It's pretty heavy, right? right? And I'll bet you if you guys talk to Americans, listen to Americans talk, listen to different people speak about this, especially politicians and stuff like that, right? If you read your textbook talks about this stuff, that you're going to hear Americans believe that the United States is different, right? We're special. Our country has ideals. Our country has special ideals, right? Why does France exist, for example? Why does France exist? Why?
It just,
It just does?
yeah.
Why is it there? Why isn't France over on the other side of the world? Why is
Because
France
they
there?
were not chosen as the perfect country.
No. France exists there because that's where the French people were. French people lived there and they said, let's make a country. Bam, France. Right? Why does Norway exist?
Those Norwegian people were there.
That's where the Norwegians were. Why does
Yeah.
Bangladesh exist? Because that's where the
Because
Bengali
Bengali-
people were. Why does China exist?
Chinese
That's where
people.
China-
Because that's where the Chinese people were. Why does Japan exist? Because that's where the
Because
Japanese
Japanese.
people were. You see, most countries exist because there was already an ethnicity there, an ethnic group, a language group, a religious group, right? That group is there, therefore they just exist. Therefore they create the land. The United States isn't like that. There's a very famous quote that Woodrow Wilson uses later, and he says that America is the only country in the world founded on a good idea. The only country in the world founded on a good idea. And they'll say that the United States is different, right? England exists because British people are there. France exists because of French people there. But America doesn't exist. There is no such thing as American people. What is American? Right? It's a central
A
question of
melting pot.
class, right?
Mhm.
How is it possible that Anika, Eric, and I are all Americans when we all look quite a bit different? We all come from different backgrounds. We're from different religions. We're from different, our parents speak different languages, right? Like, how is it that we're all American? How is it that Donald Trump and Barack Obama are both American? Right? We're both American because American doesn't exist as an ethnicity. American exists as an idea, right? And that we are this exceptional country that exists. This is the birth of that idea, and this is where John Winthrop is getting to. Okay? Right? Now, what's the counter argument to this? Are we really exceptional?
No,
Why?
it's stolen land.
Yeah. So I have a good friend of mine who's Russian, right? And she and I were talking in Russian, right? And she talks about Russia, right? She's from Russia. And she talks about Russia and she says, Russians don't think of their government as being good or evil. They just say the government is. And she says, a deer doesn't wonder why the trees exist. The deer just lives in the forest. The deer just accepts that the trees are. The trees are neither good nor evil. The trees just are. And the deer exists in the forest because that's where deers are, right? Russians exist within their government because that's what it is. It doesn't have an idea behind it. She says the Russian government sometimes is evil and sometimes is good, and all times is neutral. In all times, the Russian government is just there. And Russians live there because that's where they are, right? Americans reject that idea. Americans almost universally, Americans believe that that America is something good, that America should be a force for good in the world, that we should be the city upon the hill, that we should be the beacon of light for others to follow, right? Sometimes this looks religious, right? We'll convert people to Christianity or something like that, right? Sometimes it looks like capitalism, right? Sometimes it looks like we want the entire world to wear blue jeans and watch the Avengers, right? Sometimes it means we'll conquer Iraq and take their oil, right? This is where Americans get the idea that we can just take a country over and just rebuild it, right? America's built on a good idea. Why can't we just build up Iraq to be based on a good idea too? Right? The problem is that Iraq is filled with Iraqis who don't want us there and are pretty upset that we're there. Right?
Mhm.
This is in a way that we're not like Russia. We're not like these other countries. Okay? Right? Now, my Russian friend will point out, and she says to me, how is it that you think America is exceptional if America is built on the twin sins of slavery and genocide, right? She says, your supposedly good, noble country is built on stolen land that is of murdered Indians and labor of enslaved Black people, right? And to be clear, those two twin sins of our country's past have left deep, deep marks upon us, right? They've left thumbprints right in our face, right? And sometimes those thumbprints come in the form of strangling a Black man on the streets of Minnesota. Sometimes it does, right? And that's something that we wrestle with. It's something we wrestle with, but this idea is so strong that most Americans will just ignore the bad things and embrace the good things, right? You don't have to agree with Winthrop. You can reject him or you can accept him. You don't have to agree, right? You do have to understand. That's what you have to do. You do have to understand Winthrop, how Winthrop is important and why this matters, right? You have to understand the concept of American exceptionalism even if you reject it. Okay? Are we good?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, let's move. The next quiz that you get from me will feature one of these questions. One of these questions or something very, very similar to one of these questions. What makes Massachusetts different from the old world? And you can actually substitute Massachusetts in here for the new world. What makes the new world different? What's the nature of the covenant that Winthrop is describing? I think you can figure that out on your own. You can figure that out. And the middle paragraph of page 3, that's the now the only way. That's the paragraph that Shivani read for us. And that's the city upon the hill paragraph. Okay? Are we good? Did you guys get a picture of it or screen capture it or whatever you needed to do? Okay. All right, so let's move to come on, dummy. Come on, come on. All right. Okay, so let's get back onto here. Come on. It's taking a second to load. Now, if I remember right, we finished here. You did not see this, is that correct?
Yes,
We finished in the Mayflower Compact.
Okay. What is
Yeah,
the
we
Mayflower
finished.
Compact? Eric?
It's in.
Or- Yeah, let's go with Eric first. Eric, what's the Mayflower Compact?
It was where all the pilgrims were on the boat and they signed it, and it was like one of the first examples of a representative government where it's like everyone knows. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. It's the first what?
Not sure.
Anika, you want to help out? It's the first what?
Constitution.
There you go.
It's,
That's important. That's like one of the multiple choice questions that shows up almost every year, right? The Mayflower Compact is our first example of a constitution. A constitution is an agreement of everyone of what the government will look like. Okay. All right. Okay. So here is the succession of where we're going to get all the rest of our colonies. Okay. So you need to know the 13 colonies. You need to know the 13 colonies. The 13 colonies are Virginia, Massachusetts, plus these 11. Okay? So New York, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Maryland, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Delaware, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. Okay? Now, as we're building out, have you guys done your table yet? Did you guys do the table, the regional table thing?
I'm working on it still.
Okay. Shivani, are you still working on it? Your mic is, you're muted, Shivani.
Sorry, I didn't go through all of them, so.
Okay.
I've only, yeah, I'm not done.
Started, but you're not done. Eric?
I finished it earlier today.
Okay. All right. So let's, in your notes real quick, let's burn through some of these. I'll focus in on the ones that are super important for you. Okay. All right. New York is founded by the Dutch. It's founded by the Dutch, and then the British take it over. New Jersey also is founded by the Dutch and founded by the Swedish, and also taken over. Okay, founded by the Dutch and the Swedish, and always and then taken over by the Brits. Okay, New York is right here. Okay, Plymouth is right here. Plymouth is right here. New York is right here. New Jersey right here. Okay, Delaware also founded by the Dutch and the Swedes. And Pennsylvania is founded by Quakers, Germans, and Scots. Right, so these red ones here on this map, they're all red. The red ones are called the Mid-Atlantic colonies. So on the table that you were supposed to make, that's the Mid-Atlantic. Okay? The Mid-Atlantic colonies are all unified by the fact that they are not just British. They are Dutch, they are German, they are Swedish, they are Scottish, they are not just British, right? So they're ethnically diverse, okay? Pennsylvania is also interesting because the Quakers in charge of Pennsylvania are another brand of Christianity. They're like another flavor of Christianity, and they are a flavor of Christianity that believes in like pacifism, right? So no war. They resist war. They won't go to war. In fact, some Quakers won't even defend themselves if they're attacked, right? It's a type of Christianity. All right, let's go to the New England states here. Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Hampshire all came out of Massachusetts, right? They're all people that were rejected from Massachusetts. They get in a disagreement and they basically got kicked out of Massachusetts. That they use the term covenant, right? What is a covenant? We said that the last time, I think. You guys know what the word covenant means? We would have said it right here, covenant and combine ourselves.
It's a special relationship with rules.
There you go. Thank you, Shivani. Can you say it again loud for the people?
Yeah, it's a special relationship with rules.
Good. It's a special relationship with rules, right? If you have a covenant of marriage, the rule is don't cheat on your spouse. Don't abandon your spouse. Don't, walk out when things are bad, right? That's your covenant of marriage. If you have a covenant with God, God has given you the earth and animals and food and air and the moon, right? And in doing so, you must follow God's rules, right? He gives you the rules to worship, okay? In this case, the Mayflower Compact is a covenant. If you're going to be part of Plymouth, if you're going to be part of Massachusetts, you need to be in the covenant. You need to follow the rules. Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire didn't follow the rules, so they got kicked out. They had to make their own colony. Okay? All right, the southern colonies here. So the southern colonies will be Maryland down, right? We counted Maryland going down. Maryland is an interesting one because Maryland is founded by Catholics. Founded by Catholics. In England, Catholics are hunted and murdered, right? And Maryland is founded by Catholics. North Carolina, South Carolina are both founded for business, to be plantations. And Georgia is founded as a prison colony. As a prison colony. Okay? So you're going to create these three regions really, really quickly, right? New England is very conservative, very religious, very concerned with religion, Christianity. The mid-Atlantic colonies are big, right? The cities are huge. The cities get really big really quick, and these are ethnically diverse. They're fairly liberal. They are not like the other ones. And the southern colonies are all plantations, and they all have slavery. Okay? All right, let's get some important people. All right, so we have these three people here are important for the concept of religious liberty. Okay, now the thing you guys need to remember here is that the Europeans have been spending hundreds of years murdering each other because of Christianity, right? They are just like, no joke, the Europeans are murdering each other because you're not Christian enough or you're a different kind of Christian, right? They're like, I like Matthew 3:16, and the other guy says, no, I like Matthew 20:15, and then they murder each other, right? That I kid you not, this is not a joke at all. The Europeans went into a 30-year war in covering 6 countries based on whether or not when the priest holds up the bread on Sunday morning, does the bread become the actual body of Christ, or is it a metaphor? That became a 30-year war where the Europeans were murdering each other for 3 decades. Okay? So the Americans are coming from a very different position, right? Americans are all just like, no, F that. We don't want to be part of that at all. That is bonkers, right? So we have Thomas Hooker. Thomas Hooker was spreading around a message that all Christians should be accepting of each other. The Puritans kicked him out. And he founded Connecticut, and he wrote one of the first constitutions, again, in Connecticut. Okay, Roger Williams and Anne Hutchison were both preachers also, or both preachers in Plymouth. Anne Hutchison used to go to church on Sunday, and then she would go home and criticize the church and criticize the religious teachings. And she was such a good speaker that people started showing up at her house and listening to her counter arguments, right? She was treating it like a debate, and women started showing up for the first while, and then eventually men started showing up, and as soon as that happened, they kicked her out. Plymouth was like, what the hell? We can't have some woman teaching the men about stuff. That's crazy talk. And so they kick her out. Roger Williams was doing kind of a similar thing. Roger Williams and Anne Hutchison, both of them are preaching a version of Christianity that is accepting of everybody, and that does not believe that you have to be super conservative Puritans. And they both get kicked out. They founded Rhode Island. So Hooker founds Connecticut, Williams and Hutchison found Rhode Island. Cool? All right, here's some other ones. This is the concept, this is going into the concept that Americans believe that the future will be better. Americans believe that society can be fixed. What does it mean to be American? We're not trapped by our past. Just because we came from kings and queens and oppressive regimes of Europe does not mean we have to be. So Oglethorpe is the founder of Georgia, and Oglethorpe was a reformer. He believed that poor people could be reformed. And so he went to the prisons where poor people were put in. England used to put poor people in prison when they couldn't pay their bills. And he said, we shouldn't put these people in prison. What we should do is change their position and let them start over again. And so he took all the prisons, dumped them into a ship, and went to Georgia and started new. And as it turns out, they made a lot of money once you took them out of prison and gave them a new land. That's Oglethorpe. William Penn, right here, he's Pennsylvania. William Penn is Pennsylvania. He's the founder of Pennsylvania. William Penn believed in religious pluralism. He believed that you should live in harmony with everyone around you, and that everyone should be living together and be working together. This is what he founded, Pennsylvania. In fact, he believed that everyone should be living in brotherhood, which is why the city is called Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the Greek word for brotherhood, right? For brotherhood. And that's why it's called the city of brotherly love. That's what its name is, right? Again, this concept of brotherhood, kind of like what Winthrop was bringing up in his speech. Next up, George Calvert. George Calvert, better known as Lord Baltimore, he founds Maryland, and Baltimore is named after him, Baltimore, Maryland. And he founds Maryland, and he also was a reformer, and he said, we don't have to kill Catholics. We can actually accept Catholics. We can actually let Catholics be members of our society. And so he founds a Catholic colony. And he just tells England, he says, look, if you guys don't want Catholics in London, why don't you just send them off to Maryland? That'll be cool, right? All three of these guys, in their own ways, are these like reformers, these like people who have this idea that the world can be different, that we can fix things, that we can be the city upon the hill. We're not trapped. Cool? I think this is a good place to stop. Do you guys have any questions or comments or anything? What we're trying to do is we're trying to build up this idea of American mythology, right? This idea of what our identity is. And a lot of these ideas, the idea that you should live in brotherhood with people who aren't like you, right? Like just because I have a Chinese student and an Indian student and a white student and a Latino student, I should embrace them all, right? I should live in brotherhood with all of them, right? That idea is a very American idea, and this is where it starts. The idea that you should be accepting of other religions, the idea that you should, not be trapped by being born into poverty, right? The idea that you should be accepting of other religions, right? These are all concepts that are baked into the idea of America. Cool? All right. So you guys have a quiz right now. I'm going to stop recording it. If I could figure out how to stop recording.